"Well, you can't be up here." Those 6 calm, almost understated words captured by an NYPD body camera might just become the defining quote of one of the most reckless, jaw-dropping, and legally fraught social media stunts in recent memory. Imagine looking out your window in Midtown Manhattan on a Wednesday morning only to see 2 figures dressed entirely in black, masks covering their faces, balancing precariously on the absolute tip of the Empire State Building's 1,454-foot broadcast antenna without a single harness, rope, or safety tether keeping them from a catastrophic fall. The 2 individuals standing on that metal spire were none other than Angela Nikolai and Ivan Kuznetsov, the globally famous Russian Daredevil couple who captured the world's attention in the 2024 Netflix documentary Skywalkers, A Love Story. But what was intended to be the ultimate, viral culmination of their high-stakes romance, a sky-high marriage proposal backed by a sweeping peace banner, has instead landed them in a New York criminal court facing a massive laundry list of felony charges. The fallout from this single stunt has completely taken over the digital landscape over the last 72 hours, igniting a fierce debate about the extremes of influencer culture, the safety of public landmarks, and the heavy price of turning real-life intimacy into a piece of extreme performance art. The actual logistics of what happened on the morning of Wednesday, July 1st, are incredibly intense and highlight a major security breach at one of the country's most heavily monitored landmarks. According to official court documents and police reports released during their arraignment, the couple managed to slip past the building's standard security screening by buying normal observation deck tickets. Once inside, they didn't just stay with the crowds, they actively navigated deep into the building's restricted access maintenance infrastructure. Prosecutors revealed that the couple managed to bypass multiple security checkpoints, eventually making their way up to the 104th floor, a level completely closed off to the general public that requires specialized keycards to access. There, investigators found a physical lock on a critical security door had been completely broken open, giving the duo direct access to the base of the massive television and radio transmission tower. Dressed in full tactical black, and wearing face coverings to shield against the elements, Angela and Ivan began their vertical climb up the exposed framework of the antenna, completely exposed to high-altitude winds and the terrifying drop below. Upon reaching the absolute summit, they unfurled a huge black flag bearing a quote about the power of love, beating the love of power, kissed for the cameras, and then descended to a slightly wider ledge where Ivan dropped to one knee, pulled out an engagement ring, and proposed while Angela captured selfies to immediately broadcast to her millions of followers. But while the couple was celebrating their newly minted engagement hundreds of feet above the city, a high-stakes emergency operation was scrambling on the ground below. Onlookers on the Manhattan sidewalks noticed the dark figures on the spire and flooded emergency lines, bringing the NYPD's elite emergency services unit rushing to the scene. The situation immediately presented a unique and incredibly dangerous challenge for law enforcement. The Empire State Building's antenna isn't just a physical landmark, it is an active, high-power broadcasting hub that transmits live television and radio signals to the entire metropolitan area. Climbing up into that active array meant facing massive amounts of invisible, highly dangerous electromagnetic radiation. Because of this severe hazard, the NYPD had to order an emergency, half-hour shutdown of the building's high-frequency broadcasting array to protect the safety of the responding officers and the Daredevils themselves. Only after the tower was completely powered down could the specialized rescue team climb up the internal ladders of the antenna to intercept them. When officers finally made contact with the couple on their way down, body cam footage caught the comm exchange where the officer informed them they weren't allowed up there, to which a voice off camera simply responded that they had just gotten engaged. The 2 were taken into custody the moment they touched the lower platform and spent the first night of their engagement locked in separate cells in lower Manhattan. By Thursday, July 2nd, the romantic spectacle had shifted entirely to the cold reality of the Manhattan Criminal Court building. The couple stood before a judge to face an incredibly serious set of charges, including felony reckless endangerment, burglary, criminal mischief, criminal tampering, criminal trespass, possession of burglars' tools, and disorderly conduct. Because of New York's specific legal statutes regarding nonviolent offenses, the judge granted them supervised release without monetary bail, allowing them to walk out of the courthouse doors. Outside, They put on a defiant display for the gathering media, sharing a massive, theatrical kiss at the top of the subway stairs before disappearing into the transit system. Their defense attorney, Jason Krinsky, kept his public statements brief, noting that the defense team will thoroughly assess the evidence once prosecutors hand over the formal discovery materials. However, the legal community and high-profile security analysts are already weighing in heavily on the severity of the situation. Former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe spoke out dramatically on national news, warning that city officials and building managers simply cannot afford to let this slide with a light punishment, emphasizing that the sheer recklessness of the act poses a massive danger to first responders and runs the risk of inspiring dangerous copycat attempts across the city. The digital reaction to the footage has completely fractured the internet, splitting audiences into two fiercely polarized camps. On platforms like TikTok and Instagram, where the couple boasts a combined following of well over 2 million people, the response from their dedicated fanbase has been overwhelmingly celebratory. Fans are treating the helicopter footage of the proposal as a breathtaking, cinematic masterpiece, sharing edits of the climb set to romantic music, and praising Ivan's willingness to go to the literal ends of the earth to propose to the woman he loves. To this segment of the internet, the stunt is viewed through the lens of pure artistic expression and high-altitude performance art. Commenters are arguing that since no one was physically harmed and the couple possessed the elite athletic skills necessary to execute the climb safely, the city is overreacting by hitting them with heavy criminal charges. Some have even criticized the building's management, suggesting that if two individuals could easily walk onto the broadcast antenna with heavy gear, the building should be thanking them for exposing a massive vulnerability in their security apparatus rather than throwing them in jail. However, outside of that insulated influencer echo chamber, the broader public reaction has been intensely negative, filled with a deep sense of anger and frustration. On platforms like Reddit and X, local New Yorkers and emergency service advocates are completely rejecting the romantic narrative. The core of the backlash focuses heavily on the massive entitlement required to disrupt an entire city's broadcasting infrastructure and force public servants into a life-threatening scenario just to create content for a social media feed. Critics are pointing out that the 30-minute radio blackout didn't just affect local media broadcasts. It created a logistical headache for a city that relies heavily on clear communication networks. Furthermore, the anger directed at the couple highlights the immense physical risk imposed on the NYPD Emergency Services Unit. The officers who had to scale those ladders didn't sign up to climb a 1,500-foot tower in the open air to rescue two adults who chose to put themselves in danger for likes and views. The contrast between the couple's stylized, romanticized aesthetic and the raw reality of putting working-class first responders in harm's way has turned this into a major flashpoint for public resentment against extreme internet personalities. When you analyze why this situation escalated so dramatically, it becomes clear that it is the direct result of a systemic issue within the attention economy. Angela and Ivan are not casual thrill seekers. They are highly sophisticated digital creators whose entire brand, livelihood, and global reputation are built on pushing boundaries. After starring in a major Netflix documentary that framed their illegal climbs as a beautiful, high-stakes ballet of love and trust, the stakes for their personal and professional lives were raised exponentially. In the world of extreme content creation, you cannot simply repeat the same trick twice and expect the same level of engagement. Once you have snuck onto the Merdeka 118 Tower in Malaysia or climbed construction cranes across Asia, a normal life milestone like getting engaged becomes a branding problem. How do you throw a normal proposal when your audience expects you to touch the sky? The algorithm inherently rewards escalation, forcing creators into a dangerous feedback loop where they must continuously take bigger risks, break stricter laws, and access more dangerous heights just to maintain their relevance and satisfy an audience that has become entirely desensitized to standard content. This entire incident exposes a deeply complex truth about modern influencer culture and the complete commodification of human intimacy. A marriage proposal is traditionally one of the most private, vulnerable, and deeply personal moments a couple can share. Yet, in this instance, that sacred boundary was completely erased, transformed instead into a highly coordinated, multi-layered media event. The masks, the tactical gear, the massive peace banner, and the immediate deployment of high-resolution photography to social media platforms show that the event was never just about two people committing to each other. It was an asset designed to be distributed, liked, shared, and monetized. It represents a cultural shift where an experience is seemingly only validated if it can be turned into a viral thumbnail, pushing the boundaries of what people are willing to sacrifice for digital validation. When a couple is willing to face multiple felony charges, potential prison time, and the physical safety of themselves and city workers just to execute a piece of content, it shows that the lines between real life and the digital persona have been completely and dangerously blurred. The impact on their long-term reputation and career is going to be incredibly difficult to manage moving forward. On one hand, this stunt has given them an unprecedented wave of global media attention, introducing their names to millions of people who had never heard of their Netflix documentary. Within the underground world of urban exploration and extreme sports, this climb will likely go down as a legendary feat of infiltration. But from a mainstream commercial perspective, the fallout could be absolutely devastating. Major media companies, corporate sponsors, and streaming networks are facing intense public pressure to stop glorifying illegal and highly dangerous behavior. It is one thing to license a documentary about past exploits, but it is an entirely different issue to maintain financial relationships with creators who are actively facing major felony burglary and reckless endangerment charges in the United States. By escalating their stunts to such a highly visible, high-security American landmark, they may have successfully captured the ultimate viral image, but they have also ensured that they are now viewed by international authorities not as eccentric visual artists, but as serious security threats who require aggressive legal prosecution to prevent future copycats. As the legal process begins to grind forward in the coming weeks, the ultimate fate of the Skywalkers couple remains completely uncertain, with the NYPD making it incredibly clear that they intend to push for real accountability and security experts demanding a harsh punishment to deter others. Ivan and Angela are facing a legal reality that cannot be fixed with a clever caption or a highly edited video. Their defiance outside the courtroom suggests they are leaning into the drama, but the severity of the felony charges means they are staring down the very real possibility of significant prison sentences or permanent deportation. This leaves the wider digital entertainment industry at a massive crossroads, forcing a critical conversation about the responsibilities of platforms that host and algorithmically promote extreme stunts. Whether this high-altitude proposal marks the absolute peak of their viral fame or the definitive beginning of a very public, legally devastating downfall is a question that will ultimately be decided not by millions of followers online, but by a judge and jury in a Manhattan courtroom.